In this video, we are going to do questions related to straight lines. And the concepts based on this. So this is from the chapter straight line, class 11. So the first definition is about the inclination of a line. So you should know what is an inclination of a line. The definition says it is the angle made by the line with that of the positive direction of x-axis, measured anticlockwise. So theta, if say for example, this is theta is the angle made by this line with that of the positive direction of x-axis, we say this angle as the angle of inclination. Moreover, you should know that between two lines, the angle is between between 0 to 80 degree. Now further we can observe here that if I make a line which is parallel to x-axis or maybe x-axis itself, like I made this line. Now check here, this line, if I say it is x-axis or maybe a line which is parallel to x-axis, in all cases, the angle made is 0 because a line makes an angle of 0 degree with itself. And similarly, two lines which are parallel, their angle between them is 0. So we say that for a line which is parallel to x-axis or x-axis itself, we say that the angle of inclination is 0. Similarly, if I make a line which is parallel to y-axis or maybe y-axis itself, say I made this line here. Now, whether we're talking about this line or a line which is y-axis or a line which is parallel to y-axis, in all such cases, you will see that the angle made with that of the positive direction of x-axis is 0. So if the angle is, in this case, is 0, so we should say that angle of inclination of a y-axis, I repeat, for a vertical line or a line which is parallel to y-axis, we say that the angle of inclination is 90 degree. The next concepts related to this is the slope of a line. So understand what is the slope of a line. Now, once we have understood what is angle of inclination, then we can say tan theta of this angle, that is tangent of this angle, is called the slope of a line. The slope of a line is also called the gradient slope. Mostly we use the term slope of a line, and it is indicated by the letter M. So if I say that the angle between the line and that of the x-axis measured anticlockwise with a positive direction, assume this is theta as 30 degree, then we can say that the slope of the line is tan 30, or we can finally also say that it is tan 30 is 1 over root 3. Now, let's come to the next thing. For example, if I take an angle, as we have already considered an angle when the theta is 30 degree. Now, if an angle of inclination is 45 degree, and then in this case, the slope of the line is tan 45, which is 1. Next, if I take the angle as 90 degree, for example, the angle of inclination, if it is 90 degree, then in that case, the slope of the line M, which is calculated as tan 90, and we know that tan 90 is not defined. So we say that the slope of a line for a vertical line or a line which coincides with y-axis is not defined. Now coming to the x-axis, as we have already discussed that the x-axis or a line parallel to x-axis, in this case, the theta is 0. And in that case, if I get the slope of the line, I'll say that it is tan 0, and tan 0 is 0. Therefore, the slope of x-axis or a line parallel to x-axis is 0. So these are this is the first concepts that one should know for the straight line. Now we'll come to the next concept, that is the slope of a line when we know any 2 points on the line. Like as you can see, I have taken a line here, and in this case, I have taken 2 points. Say this is point P, whose coordinate is x1, y1, and point Q, whose coordinate is x2, y2. Let's say theta is the angle made by the line with a positive direction of x-axis. So if we know 2 points, say P x1, y1, and they has to be non-vertical line. As you know, for a vertical line, the slope is not defined. Then the slope of the line is calculated using this formula. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. For example, if I take a point, say P, this point P is say 2, 3, and say this is say 4, 5, then if I'm interested in finding the slope of the line, the formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we can say that y2, which is 5, minus x2, which is 3, sorry, y2 minus y1, y1 is 3, that divided by x2, which is 4, minus 2. So in this case, the slope is 5 minus 3, which is 2, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So therefore, the slope of line in this case is 1. Now, further that you should know is for a line which are not inclined with some angle, that means if it is, let me just show you. Now, when two lines are parallel, let's say I'm taking an example here. I'm making two lines. So one line is already drawn. Let's say I'm making another line and assume these two lines are parallel. In that case, let's say if I say this is line L1 and this is line L2, let M1 be the slope of this line and M2 be the slope of this line. Then for two parallel lines, that means when L1 is parallel to L2, it implies that their slopes are equal. In short, for two lines, two parallel lines, their slopes are equal. Now consider another case when the two lines are perpendicular to each other. Let me pick another line which is perpendicular to this given line. Let's say I made a line, say this one, and I say this line is perpendicular. That means this is making an angle 90 degree. Let's say this is L1 and this is L2. In this case, as you can see here, the lines are perpendicular. Say line L1 is perpendicular to L2. In this case, the relation between their slopes is this. Or we may say that the slope of one line will be negative reciprocal of the other, which can also be written as M1 into M2 is equal to minus 1. That means the product of the two slopes is minus 1. Repeating again, whenever two lines are given perpendicular to each other, considering their slopes be M1 and M2, then we have M1 into M2 is equal to minus 1. Otherwise, you can say M1 is equal to negative reciprocal of the other. Now let's consider one more case when a line is collinear. Let's say I took a line here, and I'm taking 3 points somewhere. So let's say this is A, this is B, and this is C. Now, if I am interested in finding the slope of AB, and if I say it is M1 and BC, say it is M2, so we can say that since it is the slope of the same line, therefore M1 is equal to M2. And since B lies between A and C, therefore these 3 points are collinear. So what we can conclude here, 3 points ABC will lie on a line, or if that means they are collinear, if and only if the slope of the AB is same as slope of BC. Now we can do some questions based on this concept. The first example that I have taken is this. It says a line L1 passes through the points, these 2 points, and another line passes through these 2 points. We have to identify whether these 2 lines are parallel or perpendicular. So let's say, for example, I am finding the slope of the first line. As we know that in order to find whether they are parallel or perpendicular, we'll be finding the slope. Here I'm using the 2-point form in order to find the slope of the first line, taking this. So in this case, applying the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, what I'll get the slope of the first line, y2 is minus 6 minus 6 minus minus 3, that is plus 3 over x2, which is 4, 4 minus 5. So we got the slope of this line as minus 3 over minus 1. Therefore, M1 is equal to 3. Now let's find the slope of the other line. The other line is passing through 2 points whose coordinate are these. Now to find the slope of the second line, say M2, their slope, the formula remains the same. It is y2 minus y1, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is how much? Say it is 3. So it's 3 minus 1 that divided by 2 minus 8. So it's giving how much? We made a, no, that's right. 3 minus 1 is 2 and 2 minus 8 is minus 6. On reducing, we are getting 1 over minus 3. So we got the slope of the other line, that is M2, as minus 1 over 3. Now check here. We have M1 as this and M2 as this. Clearly, these two slopes are not equal. But what do we see here? That their product is minus 1. Or you may say the slope of the first line is negative reciprocal the other line, or vice versa. So we can say M1 into M2 is equal to, I'm showing the working here, that is 3 into minus 1 over 3. It get cancelled. So M1 into M2 is equal to minus 1. So as you can see here, that since M1 multiplied by M2 is minus 1, it indicates that the lines are perpendicular to each other. The line L1 and L2 are perpendicular. Continuing with this, we are on this. Let's say, for example, if I do example 3 in this case, it says line through these 2 points is perpendicular to line through these 2 points. We have to find the value of x. So what we are going to do, we are going to use this relation that M1 into M2 is equal to minus 1. As you know, that when two lines are perpendicular, then their slopes are, the product of their slopes is minus 1. So let's say if I'm finding the slope of one line and I'm using M1 for this, let's say I'm getting the slope of first line, and I say M1 is the slope of the first line using these values, y2 minus y1, that is 8 minus 6 over x2 minus x1, that is 4 minus minus 2. So M1 is equal to 6, 8 minus 6, which is 2, and this is 4 plus 2, that is 6. That will give you 1 over 3. So if we'll find the slope of the other line using these values, it is 24 y2 minus y1, which is 12, that divided by x2, which is x in this case, over minus x. So we get y2 as 12 minus 24 minus 12 is 12, that divided by x minus 8. So as we know that these lines, say L1 is given perpendicular to L2, it implies that M1 multiplied by M2 is minus 1. Let's plug in these values. I'm replacing M1 with this and M2 as this. So it's 1 over 3 that multiplied by the 12 over x minus 8 should give you minus 1. We can reduce it. That is 3 1 time, 3 4 times. And by cross multiplication, we get x minus 8 is equal to 4. It implies x is equal to 4 plus 8, that is 12. So therefore, we got the value of x in this case. Let's take another question. That is, this is question number 5 from textbook. NCERT says that find the slope of a line which passes through the origin and the midpoint of this line and the midpoint of the line segment joining these 2 points, that is P and B, are given. So what we can do, let's make a Cartesian plane first. I'm making a Cartesian plane here. So I made a Cartesian plane. And now a line, say I'm making another line. It's a line segment. Find the slope of a line which passes through this origin and the midpoint of the line segment. So we should take a line segment. Let's say I'm making a line segment this time. I made a line segment here. And this line segment is obtained by joining 2 points. Say the first point is 0, minus 4. Ignore the coordinates in terms of, since it's a rough sketch, marks is not given for this. Will not make this up to the scale. Now the midpoint of this line segment, let's say, if I say this is A and this is P, say for example, C I took as the midpoint of this line segment. Further, it says that find the slope of a line which passes through the origin and the midpoints of the line segment. So we have to find the slope of another line which passes through the origin and also the midpoint of this. That means we have to get the slope of this red line. I repeat, we have to find the slope of a line which passes through the origin and the midpoint of this line segment. So we know that for origin, the coordinate of origin has to be 0, 0. That means we know one point, that is this point we know. And now we are looking for another point. As you know that we can get the coordinate of point C, as C is the midpoint of AB using section formula. Let's say I'm getting the coordinate of C, as you know that it is x1 plus x2 over 2, and its y coordinate will be y1 plus y2 over 2. Applying this, what I'm getting, this is 4, x1 is 0, 0 plus 8 is 8, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and likewise minus 4 plus 0 is minus 4, that divided by 2 is minus 2. So once we get these 2 points, now what we can do, we can apply this 2-point form to find its slope. That means using this formula, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Needless to say that we have 1 point as minus 4, one point as 4 minus 2, another as 0, 0. So let's say if I replace these values, I'll get minus 2 minus 0, and this as 4 minus 0. So it will give you minus 2 over 4, that is minus 1 over 2. So we got this slope of this required line, and that was for this question number 5. Continuing with this, the next. Now we are doing question number 6, again from the textbook. It says, without using Pythagoras theorem, we have to show that these 3 points are the vertices of a right triangle. As you know, in a right triangle, for any right angle triangle, let's say if I make a right angle triangle, here one angle we have to prove that 90 degree. As of now, we do not know which angle is 90 degree. I just took a idea that maybe B is 90 degree, but will not make any difference if I get A as 90 degree. So we do not have to use Pythagoras theorem, but we have to prove one angle is 90 degree. So what we'll do here, let's say slope of M1 be AB and the slope of BC is M2, and for the slope of AC, I'm taking as M3. So what we are going to do, since we know the coordinate of this point, say A as 4, 4, B as 3, 5, and C as minus 1, minus 1. So we know the slope of, we know the coordinate of these 3 points. So what we are going to do, we are going to find the slope of these lines. Say we'll be calculating M1, M2, and M3, and we'll check this relation, that in which case we are getting minus 1. If you are getting minus 1 in one of these cases, this indicates that one angle is 90 degree. Now let's say, for example, if I calculate the slope of M1 here, that is y2 minus y1, using this formula, I'm finding this slope here. M1 is 5 minus y2 minus y1 over x2. I'm taking 3 minus 4. So we are getting M1 as 5 minus 4, that is 1, and this is minus 1. So that is M1 is equal to minus 1. Now in the next part, I'm calculating M2 here. This M2 is say minus 1 minus 5 is and then minus 1 minus 3. So M2 will get as minus 6 over minus 4. So M2 we got as, this is can be reduced, and this is 3 over 2. So this is 3 over 2. Now if I get the slope of the third, that is M3 here, it is y2 minus y1, that is minus 1 and minus 4, and that divided by minus 1 and minus 4. So this is M3 here is minus 5 over minus 5. They get cancelled, and again we are getting as 1. So we got M3 as 1. Now check here. We have M3 as 1 and M1 as -1. So clearly M1 and M3 are making an angle of, these are the slopes and their product. Once again, we have M1 multiplied by M3. M1 is -1 and M3 is 1. So that is coming as -1. It means M1, these lines are perpendicular. So M1 and M3 are perpendicular. As I said, we just made a rough sketch, right? So here this angle will be 90 degree. Let me show you once again. The angle this should be 90 degree and not this being 90 degree, right? So this is how this question will be done. We have one more questions based on this concept, that is question number 7 from the same NCERT textbook. Now on the last question, based on this concept, it says find the slope of a line which makes an angle of 30 degree with this is positive, with positive direction of y-axis. Make sure it's not x-axis here, measured anti-clockwise. So the first thing that we will do here is to make the Cartesian plane, and this is a rough sketch of it. Now the line here is making an angle of 30 degree with the positive direction of x-axis. So let's make a line here, and it is 30 degree with the positive direction of x-axis. Let's say this with a line. And the angles made here is, this angle is given as 30 degree measured anti-clockwise. But you know that the slope of a line, say m is equal to tan theta, where this theta is the angle of inclination, and that is the angle made by the line with the positive direction of x-axis. That means this angle. So therefore, we are required to find this angle. So for that, what we are going to do, we'll consider this triangle only. We'll be applying angle sum property. Now, as you know that by vertically opposite angle, this angle will also be 30 degree, and this angle being 90 degree, because x and y axis, these are perpendicular to each other. So by applying angle sum property, as you know, sum of three angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. So the theta is 60 degree. So this theta here is the angle of inclination. As you can see here, the theta is the angle made by the line with the positive direction of x-axis, right? Measured anti-clockwise. So now we can say that the slope of this line is equal to m tan 60 degree, and therefore tan 60 is √3. So we simply have to find the slope, and we got the slope of this line as √3. Continuing with this, now we are on the next concept, that is the angle between the two lines. That means when the lines are not parallel or perpendicular, in that case, how to find the angle between the two lines. Let's say there are two lines, say L1 and L2 be the two lines. Let the slope of the one line be, say, be M1 and the other is M2. Then the angle between these two lines is calculated as tan theta is equal to whole modulus M2 minus M1 over 1 plus M1 M2. Now I repeat, we can find, if we know the slopes of two lines, we can find the angle between these two lines. Say this one is the angle here. This is the angle here in this case as M2 minus M1 over 1 plus M1 M2. Right. Obviously, 1 plus M1 M2 should not be equal to 0 for this relation to be defined, or this equation to be defined. Now we can do some questions based on this formula. This is example 2, again taken from your textbook NCERT. It says the angle, if the angle between two lines is pi by 2, that means we know the angle here. First, I can write theta here. And this theta here is not an angle of inclination, right? This is the theta I'm talking about, the angle between the two lines, which is pi by 4. And the slope, further if I read, it says slope of one line is half. So let's say the one line be M1 and its slope is given as half. And then we have to find out the slope of the other line. Let's say the other line, the slope of other line is missing. So we can take m2 as the slope of the other line. Say I took it as m here. Now we can apply this relation here to get the value of m2 or say m. So we'll be writing tan theta is equal to whole modulus m2 minus m1, and that multiplied by 1 plus m1 that into m2. Now let's replace this tan theta with pi by 4 as it is given. m2, which is given, we have taken as m minus half, that divided by 1 plus product of these two, half into m is m over 2. This is not a bracket, it's a modulus. Now replacing tan theta is the tan pi by 4 is 1. Now if I take LCM, we'll get 2 times m minus 1, and this is 2m, sorry, this is 2 plus m. This, the numerator will be 2m minus 1 over 2, and the denominator will be 2 into 1 is 2 plus m. Whole modulus, and the whole denominators 2 in both cases get cancelled. Now for further solving, what we can do here, as we know that if you replace this, once we remove this modulus sign, right there, we should place plus minus on there on the same or the other side. So what we can do here, I can write 1 as plus minus 1 is equal to 2m minus 1, and that is 2 plus m here. Now taking positive value of this, it is 2m minus 1 and it is 2 plus m. So by cross multiplication, we'll get 2m minus 1 is equal to 2 plus m. So 2m minus m is m, and this is plus 3. So we got m as 3. But I said that it has two possible values. Now we'll be calculating the value of m here, that is m2, by taking the other value of m, this time that is minus 1, is equal to same as 2m minus 1 over 2 plus m. Again, by cross multiplication, I'm getting 2m minus 1 is equal to minus 2 minus m. So this is 3m is equal to minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1. So m here is minus 1 over 3. M is minus 1 over 3. So there are two possible values we'll get for this m2 here, and that is 3 or minus 1 by 3. Continuing with this, now we are on the question number 10, exercise chapter straight line textbook. It says the slope of a line is double the slope of another line. So that means if I take the slope of, say, first line, say m1 as m, then the slope of the other line, that means the, say, if we so take the slope of the other line as, say, m2, then the slope of the other line is 2 times m. And if the angle between the tangent, so there is one printing mistake. This is 1 over 3. Right, continuing with this, it says if the slope of one line is double the slope of the other line, and if the tangent, right, of the angle between them, that means we know tan theta, and theta is the angle between the two lines, is given as 1 over 3. We have to find the slope of these two lines. That means we have to get m1 and m2, and we can get it once we get the value of m. So for that, we are going to apply this formula here, or this relation. So I'm using this. This is tan theta, which is 1 over 3 is equal to, or straight away I can first write down the formula once again to you to understand better. This is a tan theta is equal to whole modulus m2 minus m1, and that divided by 1 plus m1 dot m2. Now tan theta is 1 over 3 is equal to m2 as per the question. We have taken this, that is 2m minus m1, that is m in this case, that divided by 1 plus m1 m2. That means product of these two is 2m square whole modulus. Now we'll be finding the value by cross multiplication. And for that, we'll first open the modulus sign here. As you know, when you open the modulus sign, there will be plus minus. So I say plus minus 1 over 3, and that is equal to 2m minus m is m, and that divided by 1 plus 2m square. Now, there are two cases here. I'm taking the first case when the first case here, that is the value of m. I'm taking this relation as case 1. In the case 1, this is positive 1 over 3 is equal to m over 2m, sorry, 1 plus 2m square. So by cross multiplication, we'll get this 2m square plus 1 plus 3m is equal to 0. And that is 2m square plus 3m plus 1 is equal to 0. Right. So if we factorize this, this is we are getting as 2m square plus 3m plus 1. On factorizing, you'll get the two possible values, and its factor will be m plus 1 and 2m plus 1. That is equal to 0. It implies m is minus 1 or m is minus half. We got these first values, case 1. Now, similarly, we'll be finding for the second case. Now, in the second case, we'll be taking this as minus 1 by 3 is equal to m that divided by 1 plus 2m square. We'll do cross multiplication again. And here by cross multiplication and simplifying, we are getting 2m square minus 3m plus 1 is equal to 0. Again, factorizing, we are getting m minus 1 into 2m minus 1. Yeah, 2m minus 1 equal to 0. Therefore, we are getting m as 1 or m as positive half. So now we got the second possible value as m1, m2. So what we can do now, simply place these values. Now let's say in this case, if I taking the first value, that means this, it implies that when m is equal to minus 1, that is, then we get m1 as minus 1 and m2 as 2 times m, that is minus 2. This is the first. Second, if I'm taking this value here, placing m1 as m, we'll get m as 1, and that is m1 as 1, and m2 will be 2. So our final answer will be these two. On the last question based on this, it says find the angle between the x-axis and the line joining the points this and this. So we have to find the angle between the x-axis and the line joining between these 2 points. So what we need to do, let's first find out the angle, or say the slope of the line joining these 2 points, right? So we'll find the slope. I'm taking this as, say, m1. So I can say it is y2 using this relation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So m1 here is y2 is minus 2, say minus 2. y2 I'm taking as minus 2 minus minus 1 over x2. x2 is 4 minus 3. So we get m1 as minus 2 plus 1 over 1. So m1 is equal to minus 1. Now we know that slope of x-axis, x-axis is 0, right? It is slope of x-axis is 0. Therefore, we can say that here m2 is 0. Now we are going to use this relation to find the angle between them. So I'll be using this formula, which is tan theta, replacing m2 with its value as 0. So this is 0 minus m1 as minus 1 from here, that divided by 1 plus m1 m2, that is 0 into any number is 0. Now this is equal to, so we get tan theta is equal to whole modulus, that is 1 over 1. And as you know that when you open a modulus sign, it should be plus minus 1. So theta can be tan theta. We can have two different values of tan theta. So case one, when tan theta is 1, in that case theta is 45 degree. All right. And when theta, or say tan theta, is -1, therefore the theta is 180 minus 45, that is equal to 135. So these were the questions based on the slope of a line. And in the next video, we will do questions based on equation of line.